Director Kethvon stood before the observation window, his four eyes blinking in careful sequence as he watched the human subjects interact in the habitat below. For 17 solar cycles, the Galactic Research Institute had studied hundreds of species, cataloging their behaviors, their instincts, and their social structures. None had confused the scientific community quite like the humans. The facility floated in neutral space, far from any star system that might influence the experiments. 12 levels of laboratories, observation chambers, and containment habitats made up the massive station. Species from across the galaxy came here to be studied, cataloged, and ultimately understood. The Vaughn Collective prided themselves on their ability to reduce any behavior to simple equations and predictable patterns. But humans refused to fit into their equations. Kethvon turned to his assistant, a young researcher named Trilset, whose scales shimmered with nervous energy. She held a data tablet, scrolling through the latest findings with increasing frustration visible in the way her tail twitched against the floor. "The results make no sense," Trilset said, her voice carrying the clicking undertones of their native language. "We separated human Marcus from his companion unit, human Sarah, for 72 standard hours. According to all known behavioral models, isolation should weaken social bonds. It does so in every species we have studied. The krill moths, the Venn dancers, even the supposedly loyal Grax hounds all show decreased attachment after prolonged separation." Kethvon waited, knowing more was coming. But human Marcus displayed the opposite response. His cortisol levels increased during separation, indicating stress. However, when reunited with human Sarah, his attachment markers were stronger than before. He embraced her for approximately 4 minutes and 17 seconds. He wept. "Director, he actually produced water from his eyes as a response to positive emotional stimulus." The director had seen the footage himself. He had watched it 47 times, running it through every analysis program available to the Institute. The results remained impossible to explain through standard biological frameworks. "Tell me about the programming theory," Kethvon said, moving toward his workstation. Trilset followed, pulling up holographic displays that filled the air between them with glowing data points. "The programming theory suggests that all species operate on biological instructions. We are programmed by our genetics to behave in certain ways. Self-preservation comes first. Then comes reproduction. Then comes resource acquisition. Social bonding exists only to serve these primary functions. When bonds become disadvantageous to survival or reproduction, they should weaken and break. And humans? Humans appear to operate outside this programming." Trilset's scale shifted to a deeper shade of blue, indicating her scientific excitement. "In Experiment 47, we presented human Marcus with a choice. He could receive additional food rations for himself, or he could share his existing rations with human Sarah. Sharing would leave both subjects with insufficient nutrition according to optimal biological standards. He shared every single time, even when we increased the reward for selfish behavior to include temperature control of his sleeping area, entertainment access, and communication privileges with his home planet. He chose to share limited resources with his companion over significant personal benefit." Kethvon had expected this. His own species, the Vaughn Collective, operated on strict logical principles. Every action served the individual first, the collective second, but only when the collective's survival directly impacted the individual's survival. The idea of voluntary sacrifice without clear genetic benefit was foreign to their understanding of biology. "Perhaps they are mating partners," Kethvon suggested, though he already knew the answer. Genetic investment in offspring would explain the behavior. "They are not mating partners. They have never reproduced together. According to our psychological evaluations, they have no romantic interest in each other. Human Marcus has a mating partner on his home planet, someone named Jennifer, whom he has not seen in 3 solar cycles. Human Sarah has no mating partner at all. Then what are they? Trilsek consulted her data. They call themselves friends. The word translated poorly into the Vaughn language. The closest equivalent meant something like temporary alliance for mutual benefit. But even that failed to capture what the humans seemed to mean when they used the term. Expand on this concept, Keth Vaughn ordered. Over the following days, the research team conducted extensive interviews with both human subjects. They were cooperative, these humans, once they understood that the facility meant them no harm. The Institute had learned early in their studies that humans responded poorly to threats and coercion, but became remarkably open when treated with respect and offered fair exchanges. Human Sarah explained the concept of friendship during a recorded session that would later become one of the most watched scientific recordings in galactic history. Friendship is not about what you can get from someone, she said, sitting cross-legged on the floor of her habitat, her brown hair tied back from her face. It is about caring for another person just because you care. It is about choosing them, not because you have to, but because you want to. Marcus and I have been through difficult times together. We have laughed together and cried together. He knows my secrets, and I know his. He has seen me at my worst and did not leave. That creates something that cannot be broken by distance or time or hardship. The interviewer, a Vaughn scientist named Pelcast, struggled with the response. But what do you gain from this arrangement? Human Sarah smiled. The expression still unsettled the researchers, as it involved showing teeth, which was a threat display in most species. But humans meant it as something warm, something welcoming. I gain Marcus, she said simply. I gain having someone in this universe who knows me completely and still chooses to stay. I gain not being alone. I gain someone who will fight for me when I cannot fight for myself, and I will do the same for him. That is not nothing. That is everything. The research team spent weeks analyzing this response. They brought in specialists from a dozen different fields. Biologists argued with psychologists. Sociologists debated philosophers. The conversations grew heated and complex, but no one could explain how a species could develop such an inefficient bonding system and still survive long enough to achieve space travel. Until young Trilsek made a discovery that changed everything. She burst into Keth Vaughn's office one morning, her scales practically glowing with excitement. Director, I have found something. The humans have a history document, a collection of stories and records from their past. I have been analyzing it for patterns. Keth Vaughn gestured for her to continue. Their species survived through extreme conditions. Ice ages, predators larger and faster than them, diseases that killed millions. They had no natural weapons, no protective shells, no camouflage abilities. By all measures, they should have gone extinct thousands of years before they developed technology. Yet they did not. They did not because of this friendship mechanism. They banded together not just with genetic relatives, but with any members of their species who proved trustworthy. They shared resources during famines. They protected each other during attacks. They cared for sick and injured members who would never be able to return the favor. This inefficient behavior actually created extreme efficiency at the group level. Keth Vaughn considered this. His species had always operated on individual logic. Each Vaughn looked after themselves first, cooperating only when immediate benefit was clear. This approach had brought them technological advancement, but their society remained cold, distant, and fragile. A Vaughn would abandon an ally the moment that alliance became inconvenient. Humans apparently would not. There is more, Trilsek continued. I have been studying their military history. Their wars are terrible, brutal things, but I found something fascinating in the records. Human soldiers do not fight primarily for ideologies or territories or resources. When asked why they continue fighting in hopeless situations, they most commonly give one answer, which is, they say they fight for the person standing next to them, for their friends, for people they have bonded with through shared experience. This loyalty extends beyond logic. Human soldiers have thrown themselves onto explosive devices to protect their companions. They have charged into certain death to rescue wounded allies. They have refused evacuation from burning vehicles because they would not leave their friends behind. Kethvon felt something he had rarely experienced in his long career. He felt disturbed by a scientific finding. The implications were staggering. You are saying that human friendship creates warriors who cannot be programmed to retreat, who will fight beyond any reasonable expectation of victory because their companions are at risk. Yes, and more than that, Director. This loyalty transfers. Human Marcus told me about something called adoption. Humans will take the offspring of other humans, sometimes even the offspring of other species, and raise them as their own. They will love these adopted children with the same intensity as biological children. They will sacrifice for them, die for them, fight for them. This makes no genetic sense whatsoever, but they do it constantly. The Director walked to his observation window and looked down at the habitat below. Human Marcus and Human Sarah were playing some kind of game with small cards, laughing at outcomes that the monitoring systems could not predict or understand. They looked happy. They looked connected in ways that the Vaughn had never achieved despite their advanced technology and superior intellect. What happens when you try to break this bond? Kethvon asked quietly. Trilset's scales darkened with something that might have been shame. We tried. In Experiment 93, we told Human Marcus that Human Sarah had betrayed him, that she had agreed to cooperate with our researchers in exchange for better treatment. We provided fabricated evidence. We were thorough. And he did not believe it. When we pushed harder, he became angry. Not at her, at us. He demanded to speak with her directly. When we refused, he stopped cooperating entirely. He stopped eating. He stopped sleeping. He simply sat in his habitat and waited. He said he would die before he would accept that his friend had betrayed him without hearing it from her own mouth. You broke protocol and allowed the meeting. We had no choice. He was damaging himself. When they reunited, he immediately told her about our deception. They were angry together, united against us. The bond was stronger than before, just like after the separation experiment. Director, I do not know how to express this in scientific terms, but it seems like everything we do to break human bonds only makes them stronger. Hardship, deception, separation, temptation. Nothing works. Kethvon made a decision that would alter the course of galactic history. He turned away from the window and faced his young assistant directly. Prepare a report for the Galactic Council. Mark it as highest priority. What should the report say? The Director considered his words carefully. He thought about his own species, about the collective that was always one betrayal away from collapse. He thought about the empires that had risen and fallen throughout galactic history, always undone by internal fractures and selfish calculation. He thought about the humans down in their habitat, playing cards and laughing, bound together by something that had no name in his language. Tell them that we have discovered something unprecedented. Tell them that humans have evolved a social bonding mechanism that creates loyalty stronger than any programming we have ever documented. Tell them that this loyalty does not respond to threats, cannot be purchased with rewards, and actually strengthens under pressure. Tell them that humans have built their entire civilization on the foundation of these bonds. Tell them that as species this loyal to each other should never, under any circumstances, be made into an enemy. Trilset's scales shifted through several colors as she processed this directive. You believe they are dangerous? I believe they are the most dangerous species we have ever studied. Not because of their technology, which is primitive compared to ours. Not because of their physical abilities, which are unremarkable. But because they have something we cannot replicate or combat. They have each other. They have bonds that make them fight beyond reason and sacrifice beyond logic. They have friends. The words still felt strange in his mouth, still translated poorly, but Kethvon was beginning to understand it now. He was beginning to see why humans had survived everything their hostile planet had thrown at them. He was beginning to comprehend why a species with no claws, no venom, and no natural armor had reached the stars, while countless stronger species had gone extinct. Down in the habitat, human Marcus won the card game and laughed. Human Sarah threw her cards at him in mock frustration, then laughed as well. They were happy in captivity, in a research facility far from their home, because they had each other. That was enough for them. That would always be enough. Kefvon turned away from the window and began planning the release of his human subjects. Some things were not meant to be caged or studied. Some things were meant to be respected from a distance. And perhaps, he thought quietly, some things were worth learning from.